Hi, my name is Alexa, and this is week 8 of my Know by Year. So this week we're cozy, we have a fluffy blanket, we have coffee, and we have my notebook and phone notes full of the points I wanted to talk about today. So building on last week's video where I talked about 4 reasons why my Know by Year is helping me already, I kind of wanted to go a step further back and talk about 5 factors that led to my shopping addiction in the first place. And now I don't know that I have or had a proper shopping addiction, but for the ease of terminology, I'm just calling it that. I definitely had a shopping problem where it was impacting my life and my finances in a negative way. So take that as you will. So the first of the 5 factors of my shopping problem was, like I mentioned, I think 2 weeks ago, loneliness. So there were several things that led to kind of moving away from my friends and connections that I had, graduating from school, my husband getting a new job. Basically, all the connections I had were, slowly lost over time or, moved to a distance situation instead of being in closer proximity where I could see people face to face. And then when my husband got a new job, he was made substantially more busy than we were in previous years. So there was just less FaceTime with people that I know and love. And that just led to the feelings of loneliness that I still kind of carry a little bit today. And that led to being more easily influenced by searching through connections, through stuff, through consuming, parasocial relationships, through influencers, watching people, feeling connected by liking the same stuff as them, buying the same products as them, trying to live a similar life as them. But it's all a fake relationship, and it really doesn't solve the problem of IRL or in real life loneliness. So I'm trying to cut down on my social media time and certainly switching the types of content that I consume to try to mitigate the negative effects of the feelings of loneliness. So even if I can't necessarily, snap my fingers and solve the problems of feeling lonely, I can work on solving the repercussions that I want to minimize in my life. And actually doing a Know by Year at all was a step towards minimizing the negative repercussions of any feelings that I might have. So it's eliminating the ability to shop when I feel lonely, sad, depressed, bored, anything like that. So the first factor is that loneliness piece. The second factor that led to my shopping problem in previous years was a loss of identity. So this is not too far removed from general loneliness, but it goes a little bit further in that after college, you kind of move from a student to a professional, right? This is kind of a universal experience for people who study and then go on to the workforce, or even high school to the workforce. Or even just becoming an adult. But anyway, so I graduated college. I got a job in Houston, where we were at the time, working for the symphony as one of their outreach musicians. And then the events of 2020 happened. We all remember that. And I ended up losing that job. So I was laid off. And then I was a high school orchestra teacher for 1 year. So that was a massive identity shift just in that year, from being a professional musician so in college I was training to be a professional performer, and then the job I had was a professional outreach performer, so it involved kind of a hybrid of teaching and performing, which was not quite what I envisioned, but it wasn't too far away, and I actually enjoyed it, I think, more than just being a full-time performer. But anyway, and then to a full-time teacher. So my identity shifted, you could say, 3 times in the space of just a couple of years. And the full-time teaching was very, very different for me. So I was in a public school environment. I was not able to perform as much. And then we moved again. So we moved to Austin for a little bit where I had no job. And essentially I was a stay-at-home mom. I did have a child at that time. That was a massive identity shift. So from somebody working to stay-at-home mom. And then my husband got a job where we are now in Omaha, and we moved again. So I knew I would probably be stay-at-home momming for a while in that identity. And then I started playing with the symphony here. So I'm now currently part-time. Part-time with the symphony, but full-time stay-at-home mom still. So it's kind of like I have those 2 identities now, with the staying at home one being a larger part and the working being a smaller part, which is kind of new for me, or kind of different than, again, what I might have envisioned. I don't have a problem with it, but it was just a shift. And before kids, while I had more time, when I had free time, I used to do more creative pursuits. I used to, well, first of all, I used to practice more, so work on my performing more. And I used to do things like crafts. So I used to do scrapbooking. In the past, I've done like knitting and jewelry work, stuff like puzzles and reading, getting into fashion, and that's kind of fallen by the wayside after the new identity of being somebody with kids. Now, I don't want to make my whole channel based on, mom life and having kids, but it is a factor in the changes of identity or loss of perceived identity that I've gone through that have kind of led to shopping, to kind of look for pieces of my identity that I can purchase, essentially. Part of it is seeing these things online and seeing them presented in such a aspirational way that you want to just buy a piece of that cool girl so you can be that cool girl. I can buy a piece of that working girl wardrobe and feel like I'm being more productive, maybe. Or even if somebody's staying at home, there's a bunch of loungewear sets and elevated home options available now that are being marketed. So you can tell yourself, oh, I'm at home, I should be wearing this, or I should have these skincare beauty products for home, I should have this kitchenware, etc. There's so many things that kind of play into these identities that you see and you might want for yourself to kind of clarify your own feelings of who you are right now. Anyway, I think that's enough rambling on that topic for today. There's more that I want to explore with the ideas of manifesting your new identity, but I think that's a topic for another time because it might actually play into YouTube for me and presentation on camera and being confident with talking. So I might explore that deeper in the future after a few more videos. So that was the second factor that led to my shopping problem, the loss or change or transition of identity. The third factor is a loss of the ability to focus. So a few years back, read and enjoyed the book Deep Work by Cal Newport, and have enjoyed consuming like productivity content in the past where it's advocated to have blocks of times where you focus on an activity and basically be productive, work towards your goals, have a project, etc. Again, not to bring up mom life, but when you are a parent, you are then constantly forced to be multitasking, or as some productivity people call it, task switching, because there's no real multitasking. You're just switching your focus rapidly. So as somebody who's constantly task switching, it is then difficult to come to a focus, even when you've blocked out time and somebody else is looking after your kids. For instance, when I'm recording this video, I think it's more difficult for me to focus and keep a train of thought and not say the ums and the you knows that I've got going on here, the filler words, because I've lost the practice of focusing. I've lost the practice of speaking in a direct way, and just that lack of both time where I have the freedom to focus like that and the practice of actually focusing, I think contributed to my feelings of not being productive. And when I feel unproductive, I think I turn to shopping, bizarrely, partly because it is a way to be doing something that has a result. So it's like a project that you follow to fulfillment in a way. You do the research on something that you're interested in buying, or you look for something to want even before that. You start wanting something, you start looking at all the options, you look at how it's been styled on other people, and etc. You then end up choosing which one to order, put it in your budget and all that, hopefully, if you're doing it responsibly or somewhat responsibly. And then, bam, it's on the way. You get a confirmation, you're following it in the mail, you're going and you get the parcel and you open it and start styling it, and you have a new piece of whatever it is, clothing in your wardrobe, cookware in your kitchen, whatever it might be. And it all happened without having to have the ability to focus that much. You can shop while a bunch of things are going on around you. But yeah, I'm certainly not able to reach what they call flow state when I'm in the mom role at home. And I guess I was somebody who frequently reached that state as a musician who practiced every day, sometimes for multiple hours, many days for multiple hours a day. And having that highly attuned level of focus on that one task and getting used to it and getting into that state where time seems to not matter at all. And then suddenly being thrown into this life where I never or hardly ever get that. I certainly don't have 4 or 5 hours a day to practice ever now. And accessing the state of flow in the smaller snippets of time that I do have, let alone doing any of the creative projects that I talked about earlier, the scrapbooking, the knitting, the crafting, even just playing around with outfits in my closet. It's just things that I no longer have time for. And without making the time, it can get frustrating. And the feeling of the lack of productivity, I think, made me turn to the shopping. Anyway, let's move on. So the fourth reason, or the fourth factor that I think led to my shopping problem, is a feeling of the lack of control. So again, all of these reasons kind of feed into each other. So being somebody who, I guess, works at home, spends most of their time at home, I guess there was a lack of impetus to do things in an intentional way. It's not as if I felt like my life was out of control, but I guess there were few things that it felt like I was putting into play. So, life has a routine, and you get up and you do kind of the same things, and you rinse and repeat, and if you're lucky, you might get to plan a vacation every now and then and have a itinerary of activities that you've chosen actively and gotten to research and plan and curate. But that's few and far between for, I would say, most people, many people. And certainly when you have a family, it becomes more complicated to plan even just a weekend getaway. So there's less opportunities in life where there's a feeling of that control, at least for me. Again, this is all highly, highly personal. And I saw, I think it was Hannah Louise Poston again, talk about shopping being about control. And that resonated with me. I felt it as a truth in my life. And for whatever reason, again, I don't think my life feels out of control. There's not a bunch of things happening that I'm mad about or that I feel like I have no input in. But something about the rinse and repeat routine of things takes away the feeling of active control, at least for me. I don't know. I am so curious to know if you have any thoughts on this, if you felt this, if you understand what I'm saying in this obscure way that I'm trying to articulate it. It's not excitement per se, although that is certainly a factor. And my fifth and final reason is actually just for the pure dopamine of it. So you could tie in the excitement factor with that because, the buying and purchasing cycle releases dopamine. It's a psychological fact. So the fifth factor, like I just said, is that dopamine hit that happens when you shop, when you look for things, when you go on the hunt, the thrill of the purchase. I think this, I don't want to say it's universal because I'm sure there are some people that aren't bothered about the shopping rush, the thrill. Some people probably find it inconvenient. But I think for those of us who do like to shop, there is a little bit of that happiness hit that happens. And it really draws parallels to me with other substance problems. So you are searching for the high or the hit of caffeine or alcohol or drugs or whatever it might even, whatever it might be. And it's kind of a toxic habit or, junk food. It doesn't have to be serious, but these repetitive behaviors that give us a little bit of happiness when we do them. And then we have to seek more. And I think that's a cycle I fell into a little bit as well. The anticipation of the item and the package. I saw somewhere as well that the most fun you have while shopping is right before you hit purchase. So I don't really know how that factors into this because I don't know. I think there's fun all the way through when you get the package and open it and style the piece as well. I think I always felt the joy of using the items that I bought, or 98% of the time I felt the joy of using the items. I didn't regret a whole lot of purchases in themselves until later when I found out they didn't play well with other items in my wardrobe or whatever else it might be. I think my biggest problem was probably clothes, so I keep referring to my wardrobe. I think I would always experience the excitement of adding something new, and then it wasn't until later where I realized I didn't need it and therefore didn't really want it because it was now causing a problem in my wardrobe instead of providing a solution or providing joy or making things easier is making things more difficult. The easiest way to not have as much as I have now would have been to not purchase as much, and I would have kept the money and kept a more curated closet. But I'm gonna try to make a spring capsule wardrobe. So a little bit of foreshadowing for future content, I think. I'm gonna try really hard to keep it to 40 pieces or under. You know, there's Project 333 where it's 33. This is my first time trying a capsule wardrobe or anything like that, so I don't know how it's gonna go, but I'm gonna try and see how it feels. And it might push me to really, really cut down on the non-essentials in my closet. I don't know if I'll feel restricted. I just feel like I'm gonna wanna wear stuff that's not in my capsule, but we'll see. I'll try it. I won't knock it until I've tried it. I'm really resistant to trying it, if you can't tell. I kind of don't want to, but I see so many people posting about it and how great it is, so I have to know. But back to the topic of today. Fifth reason that contributed to my shopping problem was just the pure dopamine. So let's see if I can do a recap of those 5 reasons and see if there's any little tidbits that I forgot to talk about somehow in this long ramble. So the 5 factors that led to my shopping problem were the loneliness that I was experiencing, the loss and changes of identity, or the identity transitions, the lack of ability and time to focus on things, the perceived lack of control in my life, and just the pure dopamine of it. So those are the 5 things that I think heavily contributed. If I want to talk about external factors that were hand in hand through all these 5 reasons, I really think the biggest culprit is social media. I was thinking about this today, before filming actually, in that social media has made it so that you see so much more than you ever saw before. Basically everything can be an ad because you can want something from everything you see. The ability to start wanting something is there all the time. And in life before social media, you weren't going over to people's houses all day, every day, or any moment of the day. You couldn't just go to somebody's house and see their bathroom cabinet or their kitchen counter or their wardrobe. And now, because of social media, you see this possibly every day, depending on how often you're on social media. And this is not normal. And this is also exposing us to a huge range of new products that we never would have seen, heard about, or wanted before. I think this might actually be the most important point of my video, and it's here right at the end. So if you've made it this long, thank you for making it this long. And there you go, you got an important tidbit right at the end. That social media is kind of holding the hand of all of our insecurities and emotional issues and problems, and offering it the worst advice and the worst exposure of all these things to possibly provide us comfort in a very short-term and unsustainable and environmentally detrimental and financially harmful way. Wow. Okay, I'm getting a little worked up. I think I better wrap it up here. Thank you so much for those of you who are here. If this is valuable for you, feel free to like and subscribe. I would love to have you here. I'd love to have you comment, share your story, share your no-buys if you're on them as well. And I think this week as well, I'm going to be releasing the things I wanted to buy but didn't for February. So stay tuned for that. I almost have 100 subscribers on this channel now, which is wild. I never expected it to grow at all. You know, I kind of expected to be stuck at like 10 subscribers for half the year, and here we are. So again, thank you. I will continue to show up and share my weekly updates, and you know, maybe a little extra video here and there, maybe a little extra fashion content with the capsule wardrobe. You just have to wait and see what happens around here. All right, bye for now, and I'll see you in the next one.